The U.S. Army paratroopers of the 82nd Airborne are finally getting their hands on the newest armored vehicle, the M10 Booker. Philistines call it a light tank, men of culture call it the M10 Booker, and big brains call it the mobile protected firepower. Whatever you call it though, I want to know what the actual troops and officers think about the Booker, how its new capabilities promise to radically change the way light infantry fight, whether or not the Booker really is the right tool for the job, and we'll find out if Army leadership has a decent explanation for why I'm physically attracted to this vehicle. First, let's dive into one of the most important aspects of the M10 Booker, the thing that goes boom. It's equipped with the M35 rifled 105mm cannon, which is a low recoil tank gun. This allows the Booker to fire a powerful round while on the move, stabilized, without overwhelming the vehicle's relatively lightweight chassis and flipping the thing over. There have been recent advances in cannon and ammo technology that I think makes a light tank more deadly today than ever before. Just take a look at this October 19th, 2023 contract that I pulled up from the Army that they publicly released. It gives us insight into their thinking about the ammo. But first, the only way we're able to continue to grow our team and make these videos is thanks to our sponsors, so I want to take a moment to talk to you about debt. While most of us know how to get into it, PDS Debt knows how to get out of it. Like many veterans leaving the military, I ended up with more credit card debt than I could handle when I became a civilian. It makes sense. Without the automatic payments for rent and food, along with the steady bi-weekly paychecks, it's easy to fall into debt while adjusting to a new stage of life. This isn't just an issue for our community. There are many reasons people end up in debt, and it often becomes overwhelming before they even realize they're in trouble. If you're making payments every month on your debt and the balances aren't going down, PDS has solutions for you. PDS Debt has customized options for anyone struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, even medical bills. They provide a service to match you with debt solutions tailored to your financial situation. Everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies. There's no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit are accepted. So stop waiting and start saving by starting with a free debt analysis right now at pdsdebt.com/test23 or click the link below. Thank you to PDS Debt for sponsoring this video. So the Army's contract for M10 Booker Ammo, it says that they're seeking a source to produce the M393A3 high explosive plastic HEP cartridge. Quote, the M393A3 cartridge is capable of defeating standard earth and timber bunkers and breaching double reinforced concrete walls so that infantry can pass through, end quote. As a former infantryman, I can confirm we love to pass through. The Army is basically asking for production of munition that can knock down two pieces of concrete with rebar reinforcement between them. We know that currently the Army initially plans to produce 6,500 of these 105mm shells per year. If we dig a little bit deeper into the Army's ammo acquisition documents, we can see their possible plans for future munitions here. The picture here suggests that it may be possible that multiple types of M10 Booker munitions will be produced in the future, including something like the M900 armor-piercing depleted uranium round. This would be more effective against armor if they wanted to revive that standard anti-tank capability. I know that goes against the purpose of the vehicle, but I'm just saying it's an option. We're Sherlock Holmes in it here, because I think these ammo production requests reveal a lot about how the Army is going to use the Booker in combat. Take, for instance, the fact that Northrop Grumman got a 2020 contract to produce 105mm AMP prototype rounds, which will combine 3 different types of ammo like anti-personnel and high explosive. It will also allow the gunner to choose point detonate or airburst. This is huge. If you're trying to clear out an enemy trench, having the ability to airburst rounds directly over the trench would be choice. It also is meant to take out enemy ATGM teams, anti-tank guided missile teams. I saw this information was uncovered on X by Ronkanen. To get an idea of the M10 Booker's role and purpose, here's Major General Glenn Dean, Program Executive Officer of the Army Ground Combat Systems. He said, quote, the M10 Booker is an armored vehicle that is intended to support our infantry brigade combat team by suppressing and destroying fortifications, gun systems, and trench routes, and then, secondarily, providing protection against enemy armored vehicles, end quote. So no more room clearing, door kicking, trench clearing with a surgical raid with your M4 rifle. No, the new war meta, you heard it from them. For great power battles, is flattening and then paving. I am, of course, exaggerating. Worry not, your platoon leader is still going to ask you to kick in a door with a room filled with bad guys. The timing could not be better. I happen to be in the market for a new vehicle now that my Dodge died on me on a long road trip down to Virginia. The Booker isn't going to be a get from point A to point B kind of vehicle. You're not going to be going and picking up your Dunkin' Donuts with it. That's terrible.
Much as today's vehicle, the original M10 of World War II fame was heavily armed and highly mobile. It was intended as a tank destroyer, but served in the infantry support role in Italy and the Pacific, the same role envisioned for today's M10.
Initial soldier feedback is starting to trickle in, which gives us some insight into what troops think about the system. Early testers of the vehicle noted that there was some teething problems that were still being ironed out. There was an issue with engine cooling and toxic fume buildup after firing the main gun for extended periods of time. You're basically poisoning the crew, but the Army claims that they've since fixed that. Now, former Armor Officer Ted Dan Miller said, quote, "The M10 Booker is comfortable to operate. They're sturdy according to the troops I chatted with at the U.S. Army Armor and Cavalry Collection. They like the gunnery system, especially because of the commonality with the M1 Abrams fire control system and FLIR thermal sight." That's an important point there, I think, because the M10 Booker shares a lot of its systems in common with the Abrams, because in the past, when the infantry was given a cannon of this size, like the Stryker M1128 with its mobile gun system, that was 11 Bravo infantry guys who took a couple of weeks of training on how to operate a cannon that were using that vehicle. But the M10 Booker instead will be a team of 4 actual dedicated 19-kilo tanker MOS types. What that means is MOS means it's their job, but their job is specifically what they went to school for. So those are actual tankers who will be operating this. And that's a pretty big difference because it means that your crew will already have gone through 5.5 months or so of specific schooling on maintenance, special training, gunnery course, and how to best operate armored vehicles and their weapon systems and tactics. These are the kind of men who volunteer to be packed in closely with other men for hours on end. Not everyone has that kind of mental fortitude. All the doctrine that you need to know with tank school, they get learned about. Instead of like an infantryman who identifies as a tanker. Speaking of the crew, the Booker has 4. My understanding of how it works is your commander is an E6 staff sergeant, your gunner is an E5, then your driver is an E4, and the lowest ranking one is the loader of the ammunition, who is a PFC usually. So what that means is that's how you kind of advance along the ranks inside of a tank, and you make sure that the person that's commanding the tank has been doing this job for years. So this is not an auto-loaded system. The ammo is manually loaded by hand. There are pros and cons to this approach. One of the pros that I've heard people frequently mention is that having that extra crew member means that you can do maintenance better. It also means that when there's new systems like drone technologies attached to your tank, you have an extra person to keep an eye on those systems. On the flip side, it might take longer to shoot rounds and it's a little more cramped in there. If you're listening to this right now and you think the Booker is a piece of hot trash, don't worry. Towards the end of the video, we're going to get into all of its problems. The 42-ton M10 Booker gives light infantry a big cannon attached to their platoon under their shared command instead of having to request permission for an M1 Abrams main battle tank support. It'll be placed directly in the infantry force structure. So what that means is that you'll know the names of the actual tankers that operate the Booker attached to your unit, how many kids they have, whose divorce is fueling their aggressive drinking. What all of this means is that infantry commanders will need to learn how to work more closely with M10 Booker armor commanders. Allowing the Booker to be built from the ground up in close cooperation with the infantry meant that the vehicle is designed to be surrounded all sides with cameras. This is called the Driver's Enhanced Vision Package, and personally I love it because it means that the M10 Booker will be less likely to accidentally run me over. I heard the tankies nicknamed infantry crunchies, which I believe that nickname comes from the crunch sound that we make when vehicles run us over. Morbid.
One yet major crucible remains to temper this weapon. It will be placed into the hands of the 82nd Airborne Division's M10 Booker test detachment for a grueling operational test that will turn a mere vehicle into an integrated warfighting capability. And at the end, that team will form the core of the 1st M10 Booker Battalion, who will stand ready to deploy, fight, and win when the nation calls.
Some unanswered questions that pop into my mind, though, are Who is at the top of this hierarchy in the relationship between the infantry and the armor commander of the Booker? Does the infantry captain have final say on what happens on the battlefield, or is it more of a collaboration? My closest point of reference when all of this comes into play is the doctrine and organization of how the Stryker MGS platform was deployed. There was one per company of 100 soldiers. So it'll be interesting to see if each platoon gets assigned a Booker or each company. The answer for that might come from this congressional research report, though, that states that each brigade combat team will get 14 M10 Bookers, which suggests to me that this will be a company-level asset. So the M10 Booker in garrison will be a division-level battalion asset that will then be tasked out specifically one Booker per company. Currently, the Booker only uses the high explosive squash head round. What does that sort of special kind of destruction look like? Quote, when a HESH round hits a target, it spreads out and detonates, sending shock waves through the armor that can fracture the backside of the plate. This creates a large amount of shrapnel that can damage or incapacitate anything on the other side of the target, end quote. So the ammo tells us that the current plan is all about punching through defensive fortifications. So its primary directive is clearing a path for the foot soldiers. The idea of a lightweight tank to support the infantry is seen widely around the world. I think this is most closely a direct competitor with what would be something similar to the Chinese ZT-15 and the Russian BMP-3. The Russian BMP-3, with its 100mm cannon, has seen wide use in the war in Ukraine, with 374 being knocked out or destroyed so far. What we'll see, though, is there's some major differences in its design philosophy, capabilities, and fighting doctrine between the BMP-3 and the M10 Booker. My understanding is that it's not meant to operate alongside the Abrams, the M2 Bradley, or even Strykers. It's meant to operate in light infantry units like the 82nd Airborne, who mainly use the MRAP that has at best a 50 caliber machine gun or Mark 19 grenade launcher. The need for this type of capability has emerged over the past few decades with the development of a concept known as joint forcible entry. Now, assuming island chains in the Pacific and ports in Europe are going to be contested by great powers in the future, this means that the Army needs a vehicle that can arrive faster. And in terms of strategic mobility, two fully combat-ready M10 Bookers can fly on a C-17 Globemaster, roll off right away, and be ready to slay the enemy. The kind of rapid response to clear a path for follow-on forces could mean the difference between victory and defeat in places like the Pacific Theater. However, only one M1 Abrams can fit into the back of those birds, and that's only after being partially broken down for transport, which requires a lot of setup time once you land. That's why I think we're seeing the 82nd Airborne Division get this system, because that's part of their mission statement. Like how a lot of companies have mission statements that say, we value synergy and innovation while aligning our core competencies with the dynamic market. The 82nd Airborne's mission statement literally reads, quote, we stand ready to deploy anywhere in the world within 18 hours. Most units do not train to have that kind of alert status. Mobility is key to understanding how to deploy this vehicle. The M10 Booker can cruise at 40 miles per hour, powering through jungles, mud, forests, mountains, or across bridges that would stop the much heavier Abrams tank in its tracks. This means you can show up in places that the enemy will be less likely to predict. Keeping up with the light infantry while they navigate rough terrain is one of the reasons why Big Army is so gung-ho about the M10. It means US infantry can rely on heavy power even in remote regions of the world like the South China Sea and the island chain there, where traditionally heavy armor gets left behind. Light infantry units also usually do not have engineering and recovery vehicles as part of their loadout. A damaged M10 Booker is light enough to be towed by another M10 Booker. So, you don't need the aid of a M88 Hercules recovery vehicle. This helps the Booker deploy for extended operations in remote environments. One way of determining how troops or officers feel about the vehicle so far is by looking at how the Army perceives its performance. They're ramping up and moving for full rate production. According to budget documents, they would manufacture 32 per year going forward until they hit 504. Everything about this has an aggressive timetable to the point where some question if they're moving forward too quickly with the wrong capabilities. Normally, the Army procurement process is long, and I'd expect us to see at least 2 fights between Congress and the Pentagon over the project requirements by now. But the Army avoided all that with a special program called the Middle Tier Acquisition Pathway. The pathway cuts that red tape by looking at already existing solutions. But this breakneck speed generated controversy. Defense analyst Brandon Weichert is one of the many critics who question the vehicle. They argue the M10 Booker's too heavy, too lightly armored to do its job, and it's not even airborne droppable. Early prototype versions of the MPF project had that larger XM360 lightweight 120mm cannon, like on the Abrams, but the Army decided that they wanted to prioritize higher ammunition capacity to support that infantry role. This is a trade-off, of course. By downsizing, it can carry 42 rounds to stay in the fight longer. The 105 cannon can theoretically kill a main battle tank from the side, but probably not from the front. But again, we have to remember, engaging tanks is not supposed to be the job of the Booker. Light infantry units use javelin-guided missiles as their primary anti-armor weapon still. Critics like Weichert believe that the Army isn't incorporating the lessons of the war in Ukraine, where light tanks like the French AMX-10RC reportedly performed so poorly that the Ukrainian armed forces pulled them off the front line. The Russian forces, on the other hand, have also reportedly relegated many of their similar light tank, similar rolled BMP-3s to indirect fire support roles, according to Army recognition, where they aim their cannons into the sky like a mortar tube and lob rounds from safety. It's a tactic that American light tanks used during the Korean and Vietnam Wars. But it's like my mom used to always say to me when she was mad at me when I was growing up. If someone in Ukraine jumped off a bridge, would you also jump off a bridge too? Don't copy someone just because they're doing it. What works in one army won't necessarily work with the capabilities and doctrine in another one. Now, I'm not here to glaze the U.S. Army's leadership. That's why we're investigating the pros and the cons here. Supporters of the M10 argue that the Booker is only just starting to show what it can do. Defense analyst John Hill argues that ever since the Army dropped their Sheridan light tank in the mid-1990s, it left U.S. light infantry with a major capability gap for decades. It also has the knock-on effect of freeing up additional heavy M1 Abrams tanks to do the actual job that they're designed for, which is to hunt enemy tanks instead of supporting the infantry. But you can't always predict what the enemy will throw at you, and critics believe the M10's armor is unprepared if it gets caught against an enemy tank. The exact armor of the M10 is classified, but with its level 3 armor package installed, the M10 would have the Stenang 45-69-6 standard, meaning it can withstand at least a 30mm autocannon from 500 meters away. That's good enough to stand up to enemy infantry fighting vehicles, but it might not survive an FPV drone hit, and I haven't seen plans to add any anti-drone abilities to the Booker yet, even though shooting down drones would be another vehicle's job. I also find it surprising that there isn't a 50 cal or a 30mm remote controlled weapon system to support an infantry maneuver, but instead, there's only an M240 machine gun on the top of it. At least that's the situation right now. But the M10 follows the Army's trend of future-proofing designs by leaving space for upgrade modules to be installed on already in-service hulls. This saves costs down the line and keeps soldiers at the frontier of military technology by constantly updating hardware with new capabilities or better versions of existing systems. That's all I've got on the M10 Booker. Thank you for watching. Please check out one of these videos if you have a chance. I'm your average infantryman, Cappy, signing off this net. Time now.